Hello, 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 and welcome back to another edition of Fan Talk, your favorite podcast by your favorite fan. Of course, that is me, Kyle Brenchley, in the house on this Wednesday. I am sorry. I must apologize. Last week was one of the craziest weeks of the year. Maybe of my life, but definitely of the year. So I was not able to get an episode, obviously. I know I was going to do something Thanksgiving related. I know I kind of teased that in the last episode, but that's just not the way the turkey baked this year. So I apologize for that, but I am back this week with another edition of Fan Talk. This is a podcast you can find anywhere you get your podcast. If you're new here, hello, welcome. It is December now. Can you believe it? I can. It is December, and it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, as many people have said through the years. So welcome. Thank you guys. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk football. We're talking college football. We're talking about the college football playoff rankings. And now that the season's over and we're moving into the conference championships, this is as important as ever to kind of look at who's maybe in, who's potentially on the fringes, who should be in, who's getting snubbed. We'll talk all about that. We'll catch up with the NFL. We'll do some picks, and then we'll get you guys out of here. Weather report, it is sunny, but the air here is absolutely terrible. We're going through what they call a temperature inversion, where it's colder in the valley than it is in the mountains. And so because of the difference in temperature, smog gets stuck. It can't lift away. It can't float up into the atmosphere. It gets stuck between this layer between different temperatures because, it's heat rises. So heat's already up there and it's cold down below. Anyways, go talk to a weatherman about it. They can explain it better. Okay, so let's jump right into college football, and let's look at the college football playoff rankings. So the season ended, of course, right? And so this year, if you're living under a rock, they've changed the college football playoff format. It used to be 4 teams. It's now 12. And I really like this idea. A lot of people really like this idea. The idea is to give more teams a chance. Because really, in years past, you look at the top 4, and it's usually 3 of the 4 are like the SEC champion, the Big Ten champion, and the Big 12 champion. And then the 4th one is sometimes the Pac-12 champion, but oftentimes it's just like another SEC team that's really good who didn't win the big SEC championship. So it's been really controversial trying to figure out how to decide those 4 teams every year. It's been up and down. I've talked about this in previous episodes. A lot of people have covered this, professionals and amateurs alike. So they moved to a 12-team format to try to give it a shot, to give the teams that essentially don't really have a shot all year, theoretically, right, to actually have a shot. So, of course, teams like Oregon, who are projected to be the Big Ten champion, Texas or Georgia, who could be the SEC champion, Tennessee is also in there because they're ranked really high, Boise State, if they're the Mountain West champion, just a variety of teams. So let's look at what the current rankings are. And the current rankings aren't the exact same as kind of what's projected to happen, if that makes sense. Like, for example, Miami is ranked 12th in the nation right now, but they are currently left out of the projected college football playoff. Currently, the 12th seed would be Arizona State because they're projecting Arizona State will win the Big 12 championship. So kind of interesting how that works, but here, sorry, for my audio listeners, I feel bad. Sorry, you won't be able to see this, but for my viewers on YouTube, let me show you what we're looking at here. So obviously this is video. You can go watch the video. But this is what the current bracket is projected to be. They have Oregon as the 1 seed, and the top 4 teams all get a bye. So Oregon's a 1 seed, Texas 2, SMU 3. They're projecting they'd be the ACC champions, and since they've only lost once to a good BYU team, they deserve first round bye. And then Boise State would be the 4 seed, same kind of deal, only lost once to a very good Oregon team, Mountain West champion. And then, of course, over here, Penn State, probably, they're projecting them to lose to Oregon. So, they'd still get in. And then, I don't know, maybe. I guess I'd claim I should throw out there. Again, this is projection. This is how it is. This is kind of what the committee's thinking will happen. And we'll touch a little bit more on that when it comes to teams that got left out and maybe the reason why. But yeah, a Penn State team in there, a good Notre Dame team in there, a good Georgia team, Tennessee, Ohio State, Alabama, Indiana, and Arizona State. So yeah, that's currently kind of what it's projected to be right now. There has been some controversy for sure about specifically Alabama being in there. And let's talk about Alabama just for a few minutes. Obviously, being a 3-loss team, who has Alabama lost to? Alabama has lost to, well, my Oklahoma Sooners, who, if you've been following college football, has definitely had an off year. Only went 6-6. Did not really live up to expectations. Weren't a great team. They weren't a bad team, but I mean they were just kind of a low level SEC team this year. So they lost to an Oklahoma team, and it wasn't even close. It was a blowout. They got blown out by an Oklahoma team. They lost to a Vanderbilt team who, same kind of deal. Vanderbilt's kind of mid. And then they lost to Tennessee. Tennessee is on the road at Tennessee. That's a loss that, probably should have been their only loss all year, to be frank. You know what I mean? Like the other two were not good. So Alabama has 3 losses, and all the other teams either have 0, 1, or 2. And so you're like, okay, so why is a 3-loss Alabama team in there instead of a 2-loss Miami team, or, a 3-loss Ole Miss team who, if you look at it, you can break down different things. They have a higher strength of schedule. The Tide have lost to worse teams, and the Rebels' losses just weren't as bad as Alabama's. So you're just wondering, so why is that the case? Well, let's look at the example of Miami first. A lot of this comes down to, honestly, there's a lot of discrepancy in how the committee decides, right? I mean, because when we going back to the 14 playoff, they'd be like, these teams are clearly the best, I made this point earlier that, it's hard to put the 4 best teams. There's a lot of teams that deserve that. But if you open it up to 12, in which they have, then you're opening the door to a lot more teams believing they deserve it, right? Back when it was just the 4-team format, it's like, okay, obviously the champion of the SEC, which was probably Georgia or Alabama, who'd probably only lost 1 game all year, and then they win the championship, they probably deserve to be in. A Big Ten team, like, in years past, it's either been like Michigan or Ohio State, same kind of deal, probably have only lost 1 game. The Big 12 champion, which in years past, it was Oklahoma, and Texas was it last year, same kind of deal, a team with probably 1 loss. So, I mean, it was real, not easy, because it was still hard, because there was always, maybe about 6 teams that were like, oh, this could be it. But it definitely made the committee's decision a little harder when they opened it up to 12 teams. It gave more teams opportunity. I love it. It's great. But it also presents them with this tough, difficult ask to put together 12 teams that deserve to be in. So this is good. And so, but then it gets down to teams, like Miami, who definitely thinks they should be in. Ole Miss, who definitely thinks they should be in. South Carolina, it's a little harder to make an argument for them. Same record as Alabama. They lost to both Alabama and Ole Miss head to head. But, I mean, they did have some good wins against, Texas A&M, Missouri, Clemson, and absolutely destroyed Oklahoma, which is a team that beat Alabama. So, I mean, from that you can say, well, the Gamecocks are playing pretty well, if you're just like looking at how they are right now. Same with BYU, 10-2, just because they're not playing in the Big 12 championship game. Kind of puts them out of the mix, but I mean, still some great wins. They beat an SMU team that is currently 11-1. They lost to an Arizona State team who is really good strength of schedule, and some really good wins. So it's just, it's tricky. It's tricky. And the CFP, the College Football Playoff Committee, I mean, it's similar to the March Madness Committee, right? We can pick them apart all day. We can disagree with them. It's a hard ask for them to try to put this together, but we'll see coming down to championship Saturday, kind of what happens, what shakeups. Obviously, Alabama's not in the SEC championship, so they can't really help their case anymore. They kind of just have to rely on other teams or rely on the committee. And as of right now, the committee explanation for why a team like Alabama's in and why Miami's not is because simply they look at Alabama and they say, we have this gut feeling essentially that they could win a game in the college football playoff, that they could, put up a good performance. And it's just, maybe it's history. They're looking back and they're like, Alabama's always been good. Maybe it's just that Alabama makes for good, it sells. Alabama sells, right? More people will tune in if it's like an Alabama matchup against, I don't know, a Big 10 or a Big 12 team, as opposed to perhaps a Miami or a BYU. So, I mean, there's not really a set thing like looking at all the facts, Alabama is obviously better. No, it's the committee's just really going off their feeling, and that's just how it is right now. Moving forward, and I've mentioned this before, and I'm not the only one. Everyone's been mentioning it. They kind of need to figure out a solid, I don't know if it has to be written in stone, but just like more solid guidelines on kind of what they're looking for and what they need to put. Exactly what teams need to do. You know what I mean? And I've mentioned that before. So we'll kind of see come Saturday what happens with the college football playoff rankings. But I am excited for this 12-team format. First round buys, first games played at home sites. It's going to be good. All right, guys, let's shift our attention to the NFL. Last week, week 13, I know I didn't do a video. So, I mean, there's no way to hold me accountable. But I did go 13-3 in my picks. I did take a swing, and I tried to pick an upset, and it didn't work out for me. So I've dropped all the way back down to 441st. I'm currently, I think, 6 picks behind the leader. So kind of falling off a little bit, and unless I go undefeated, the next 5 weeks, it's not looking great for me. So let's just go through week 14. Let's make some picks. Let's just go off of what I feel and not worry about what other people around me are saying. So the Green Bay Packers, Thursday Night Football, visit the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff, Dan Campbell. This team is on fire, 11-1. In your mind, you think, well, at some point, the Lions are going to have to lose a game, right? Maybe not. They might not lose again. So I'm like the Lions in this one. The Packers, obviously, winners, I think, of 7 of their last 8 or 6 of the last 7, something like that. They're playing really well. Big win against the Dolphins on Thanksgiving. But give me the Lions at home. Until someone figures out how to stop that offense or they get injured, the Lions aren't going to lose many games. So give me the Lions at home to go 12-1. Jags at Titans. This is the Super Bowl for these teams. Both teams, looking forward to 2025. Trevor Lawrence absolutely got blown up by Al Shazier from the Houston Texans. So I don't know if he'll come back. It might be the Mac Jones show against Will Levis. How about that? If you're watching this game, then I'm really concerned for you. I'm going to go with the Titans in this one. Nick Westbrook and Kine, wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans, probably gets another touchdown. Probably start him in your fantasy team this week, honestly. Sneaky good option there. Give me the Titans. Jets at Dolphins. I like the Dolphins in this one. Although as a Broncos fan, I prefer the Dolphins to lose. I just think the Dolphins are a better team. Went up against a good Packers team and just got outplayed, but they'll beat a Jets team that has, given up long time ago. Falcons and Vikings. The Vikings are playing good. Nice win against Arizona. Nice comeback win against Arizona. Give me the Vikings at home. Falcons continue to slide, but they're not out of the race for the NFC South. Saints at Giants. Give me the Saints in this one. The Giants, of course, have moved on from Daniel Jones and turned to Drew Lock. Drew Lock played exactly how I thought he would. Made a couple of good throws, but turned the ball over and ultimately just wasn't what the Giants needed. At this point, they should just tank and try to get as high as pick as possible. Panthers at Eagles. I really liked what I saw from Bryce Young and the Panthers against the Buccaneers. It sucks that their defense is probably the worst in the league, so it's hard to win games when your defense is literally a high school team, that gets run over. But Bryce Young showing some progress. I think the Panthers stick with him. I think they let him develop for the rest of the year. But I'm going to go with the Eagles in this one. They had a huge win against the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Eagles are back. Fly, Eagles, fly. Browns at Steelers. Now the Browns, impressive Monday night game. Honestly, they did outplay my Broncos. If you watch that game, they put up, over 500 yards of offense. Jameis Winston was cooking. Jerry Jeudy was cooking. Unfortunately, Jameis Winston has not been delivered by the Lord from his pick sixes, and that was pretty much the difference in the Broncos' win. Jameis Winston did outplay Bo Nix. Bo Nix did play a good game, but Jameis Winston went off. Against the Steelers, though, I'm going to go with the Steelers. I think the Steelers get revenge in this one. The Browns obviously beat them earlier in the year in that freak snowstorm Thursday night game. I haven't checked the weather forecast, but I doubt it'll be a snowstorm on Sunday for the Steelers. So give me the Steel City. Raiders at Bucks. I think the Bucks win this one. The Raiders are, I would say the worst team in the league, but I think the Raiders would beat the Giants team head to head. So give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I about said Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield, and company to take control of the NFC South. Now this one's 50-50. This one's a tough one. I do want the Cardinals to win, just personal preference, but I think Seattle's playing very well right now. They're really pushing for an NFC West title. The door is wide open because San Francisco's laying down. If they can beat the Cardinals team here, then they'd have a game on the Cardinals and a game on the Rams. So give me the Cardinals in this one. It is 50-50, so this might be a pick that comes back to bite me if I get it wrong, but that's just the way it is. Bills at Rams. I like what I see from the Bills. Josh Allen just got engaged to Haley Seinfeld, lucky guy. And he also threw for the touchdown and then also ran in a touchdown off of a pitch, kind of. I don't know if you guys saw it on Sunday Night Football. He threw it to Amari Cooper, and then Amari Cooper pitched it back to him, and Josh Allen ran in. What can't this man do? I'm really pushing for the Bills. I really want them to get the number 1 seed. And so big game against the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday. Give me the Bills. Bears at Niners. Now, is this where I take a swing? I am very tempted. I am very, very tempted. I don't know if I will. We'll find out in the next 10 seconds. 49ers obviously got clobbered by the Bills. They lost to the Packers. They're now back home in the sunny state of California. Bears obviously fired Matt Eberflus after that absolute meltdown. Terrible clock management. I was yelling at the TV. I'm not a Bears fan by any means, but bad football just makes me cringe. It was so bad. If you did not watch the game, the Bears were driving. They were down by 3. They had like 36 seconds left when Caleb Williams got sacked to make it 3rd down. And the Bears had 1 timeout. So you call timeout there and, you regroup. You try to gain a couple yards back and maybe try a field goal. No, they don't call timeout. They just let Caleb Williams call a play, and by the time he snaps it and throws it, the time is run out. The game is over. Yeah, redunculous. They left Matt Eberflus in Detroit. Legend has it he's still there, and that he was at the Detroit Pistons game last night, sitting in the nosebleeds. But, gosh, I think I'm going to go with the 49ers. I want to pick the Bears in this one, but it's just too risky if I'm really trying to keep pace with the world leaders. Also, who knows? New coach, maybe they play inspired. But the defense I don't know. I'm going to go with the 49ers. Here is where I'll make my upset pick of the week. Give me the Chargers over the Chiefs. The Chiefs are frauds. Absolute frauds. I don't know what black magic they're using, but the game against the Raiders were driving, going to kick a field goal to win, and then they fumble the ball. It's just crazy. The way the dice rolls for the Kansas City Chiefs, a couple weeks ago they blocked the Broncos field goal, and then this happens. Just one thing after another. The Chargers are a good team, good defense, good coach, Justin Herbert. Give me the Chargers to go into Kansas City and to show the nation that the Chiefs are frauds and that their black magic will no longer work. To be completely honest, I don't actually believe that there's any voodoo going on. Monday Night Football, Bengals and Cowboys. Give me the Bengals in this one. The Bengals, craziest year. Joe Burrow has had 3 games in which he's thrown over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, and the Bengals have lost all 3. That is just unheard of. Bad break after bad break. The season's pretty much over for the Bengals. It's just not looking bright. But I think this is a great game to get back on track, to at least get in the win column and to beat a Cowboys team that frankly is not super good. Cooper Rush showing some signs of some flashes, but nothing too crazy there. Yep, those are my picks for Week 14 in the NFL. Let me know down below what you guys think, both about the college football playoff format, which team should be in, which team should be out, as well as your NFL picks, what you think will happen this week in the NFL. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening and or watching to Fan Talk. Of course, this is a podcast that you can find anywhere you get your podcast. Also, Spotify Wrapped just dropped today, so I'm going to go check that out. Let me know what your guys' top songs are down below. And as always, we'll see you guys next week for another edition of Fan Talk.